we are faced questions about obsolescence, the excitement levels surrounding a product launch event at a major trade exhibition. It was associated with deck chairs, would you believe? So we had these little handout, small deck chairs. To get music, you'd go to a shop and you'd buy it, probably on a compact disc or something like that. Be something I would switch off to and chill out to at the end of a busy day.
Hello and welcome to the MICROMASTER Museum podcast, a podcast that celebrates a frequency converter sold more than 5 million times globally. Today, my colleague Dave from Customer Service and I will be talking to Nic, who heads the product support team in Congleton. My name is Susanne, and I work as a portfolio manager for DI Customer Service with a special interest in retrofit. Before we get started, let's go back and see what the world was like when the MICROMASTER was first released. The product was launched in the late 1990s and early 2000. Did you know that only in 2005, British Telecom launched an online version of its phone book? When the MICROMASTER went global, phone books were actual books printed on paper. Hi, Nic. Thank you for joining us for this interview. Hello, Dave, and welcome to you. Nic, you have many years of experience working for Siemens in Congleton and currently head the product support team. Tell us, what is your role today and why does the MICROMASTER get a lot of your attention?
Yeah, okay. So my role today takes on a rather inflated title of Chief Product Owner for Dynamics G products, so product support. And yeah, my purpose is to act as a project manager, if you like, within R&D to support the existing product portfolio. We've got teams of highly skilled product support engineering professionals in place in different locations around the world to make that happen. We've got a broad portfolio, so we've got the modular drives within the Dynamics power modules and control units. We've got extensive options and accessories. We've got a comprehensive portfolio of drive products on the decentralized drives applications. And then, of course, we've got the very successful range of integrated drive products, which had evolved from MICROMASTER in the first place, from the MICROMASTER product range. MM4 products are still being manufactured in quite substantial quantities, even today, 20 years on, though I think largely they are used in existing rather than new project developments at this point in time. It still occupies our time, primarily because due to the age of the portfolio, the MM4 portfolio, we are faced questions about obsolescence. So some of the older components need to be supported. So even though the product range is 20 years old, it still occupies our time within the product support team.
So thank you, Nic. Thanks for a great answer there. If I may, I'd like just to turn to a bit of the marketing associated with the MICROMASTER. So in the first years that MICROMASTER went to, let's say, Hanover Fair or SPS, I'm guessing this was a really, really different than what you'd imagine today. And how did you go about getting information from those events?
Yeah. Okay. Well, let me just explain a little bit about, first of all, my involvement at the time of the launch of MICROMASTER 4. So I was a member of the product management team. I was actually supporting the introduction of sister products within the MM4 range, within the decentralized drives portfolio, the so-called CombiMaster range of products. But the MM4 team was very multinational. It had team members who have really gone on to hold stellar careers within industry, both within and outside of Siemens. And some team members are present at the highest levels in our organization to this day. But while the launch of the MM4 was taking place, literally the whole team had to pull together due to the amount of work ahead of us. when it comes to a trade fair like Hanover, the excitement levels surrounding a product launch event at a major trade exhibition was and probably always will be one of the highlights in the memory of anybody who's fortunate enough to be involved in that kind of event. It was, of course, associated with a huge amount of stress and work and effort from the international team to make sure that all the preparations were in place. Months of work, all culminating in a single week of intense activity to showcase, a new and exciting exhibit like MM4. And when attending a fair, you want to present the product in its best possible light and create an interest and a buzz around the stand. And of course, the Siemens stand at a Hanover fair or an SPS fair is always will be one of the go-to locations for any exhibition. It attracts customers and colleagues and competitors, all on the lookout for something new and exciting to take on board and launch in the market. So one of the key elements of a trade fair, particularly for product management, is the opportunity to perform market analysis of the competition. And I had, on a couple of occasions, the pleasure of undertaking this role in Hanover. So the role there is on the first day of the event, myself and a colleague would spend the whole first day scanning the competition for anything new and of interest, and then spend the whole night sorting, collating, digesting our findings so that by the following morning, day 2 of the fair, a fair report would be available in print to all the Siemens colleagues attending the fair, and thereby providing direction in the main areas of interest that they should be looking out for. So this exercise was both exhilarating and exhausting in equal measure, particularly when having to perform stand duty for the remainder of the week. So yes, the marketing activities, the preparation work involved in setting up a stand is huge. The creation of brochures and other handouts need to be made available. And also, setting up working models and other attractions for visitors to the stand. It requires an army of background support.
So thanks for that, Nic. I totally agree with you that the fairs, the Hanover Messe, the SPS, the huge stress levels, and for what's a short period of time. But one of my benchmarks for any fair is the type of giveaways that they have. And yeah, absolutely, I am that shallow. But I just wanted to ask you, 20 years ago, what type of things were we sharing with people and motivating people to come on our stand with?
Yeah, I remember going back at that time, MM4 launch. We had a rather spurious, rather dubious marketing campaign. It was associated with deck chairs, would you believe? So we had these little handout, small deck chairs. And I think the marketing message, which was somewhat difficult to explain, was associated with the ease with which a deck chair could be put together. And that represents not dissimilar to an MM4 in the ease of how it can be commissioned and set up. So it was an eye-catching, a memorable marketing campaign, although not the easiest one to explain, let's say.
Well, I'd like to focus on the ease of setup rather than you can collapse it in 20 seconds. So, absolutely. So, great story that, Nic, and certainly one that I remember, having worked for Siemens for a number of years myself. I can remember the tiny deck chairs appearing on people's desks in the office and people using them as mobile phone stands. So, I really remember that giveaway as well too.
So I have to add, when I went to the Hanover Fair the last time, there were no deck chairs around, so times have changed. But I'd be very interested, Nic, to hear another sort of input or thought from your side. I understand that part of sort of the rollout for the MicroMaster involved a so-called MicroMaster sales manual. And I think people actually met up in Herzogenaurach. There was a bit of an introduction meeting. It was really about meeting people, which is very different from the present day where we're doing a lot of Zoom and Teams meetings. Perhaps you can give us some insights, what it was like, sort of this phase of the sales manual being rolled out.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, these were the days before virtual meetings and Teams, as you say. And so at that time, the most expedient way of delivering information to a very expectant sales force was within a sales conference. And this allowed product management to really, again, showcase all the work that they put into this. And as you say, a sales conference was prepared for MM4 and in Herzogenaurach. I think we were in one of the Adidas hotel venues at that time. So a key part of that activity was the generation of this sales manual. The sales manual would contain all the information vital to a sales region to launch the products with the latest data available. So information such as key features about the products and the reasons behind them, where the products would fit in the market, and the competition, the competitive products that we were looking to address, and then key sales argumentation, so the fighting talk that's needed to launch a product. So while now we would go to a fair with and provide all the data online or on some kind of digital media, 20 years ago, this data was prepared in A4 files, packed full of printed information. Hundreds of files would need to be printed and prepared to allow all the participants of the conference to have their individual copies to take away. I mean, this is no small logistics task in preparing all of this.
Very much sort of in line with the British Telecom telephone book, which was still printed not too long ago.
Yes, no, absolutely. It was all in paper form at that point in time. So, the sales conference itself, it was a really important forum. It was a forum for exchange of ideas, the opportunity to meet colleagues from all over, across the regions and other parts of the world. And it was always a privilege, wasn't it? And an enjoyable experience to share some time with colleagues who really work on the front line and who can provide the best insight back to product management of what's really going on in the marketplace. So it was a really nice opportunity to put faces to the voices of the colleagues that you'd spoken to on many occasions on the phone, and it was a chance to share a meal and a drink. Something we miss out on in today's world where business travel is less prevalent. I think there was an interesting story where the presentations themselves at this conference, they were really detailed, and the questions that were faced and the debate that we had within that was really intense. But of course, it was broken up with some occasional lighter moments. Particularly memorable, I remember the presentations. There was some rather surprising appearances within the foils of a recent football result at that time between the England and Germany national teams. I think England had won for the first time in a generation. So the presenter had to rather hurriedly and embarrassedly on each occasion apologize to the German members of the audience for their discomfort, while of course everybody else who wasn't German was giggling in the wings. So it was a fun occasion, as well as being really an important forum for bringing together the sales force.
Absolutely, Nic, and I remember the game that you're actually speaking about, and it was 5-1. So I would suggest there are at least 5 foils that weren't anticipated in there. So and it's also interesting because again, I've been to the Promotoren-Tagungen or the promoters meetings as they'd call them, and you're absolutely right. You used to get a load of information being given to you, and here, have a read of this, and it was all paper. So, from many trees were harmed in the making of this this material, and it's nice to see that our sustainable values have become much further into the forefront of our minds now. So, I think we can all learn from those experiences. But so if we can just for a second turn to a slightly other topic, a slightly different topic that I think might be you might be able to add some value on. So through the series of the podcast, we've heard a lot about the development of the drive itself, what the goals of the drive were. But based on your R&D insights, Nick, could you perhaps share with us some of the manufacturing techniques and how this has evolved throughout the life cycle of the MicroMaster? So of course, the drive's produced in Congleton. So what impact has the manufacturer of this drive had on Congleton?
Yeah, it's had a huge impact. I think I mentioned before, MM4 is still being manufactured in not insignificant volumes in the Congleton factory. So it's a real lasting legacy of success. And I think it's a testament to the innovation and effort which went into the creation of a sustainable, reproducible manufacturing process, as well as, of course, the diligence of countless manufacturing operatives, the team leaders and support staff who've gone on to produce millions of MM4 inverter products in use across the globe. While the location of the manufacturing cells themselves, the MM4 manufacturing cells, they may have moved on several occasions to different parts of the factory, I think the core assembly process has remained unchanged. Indeed, the original assembly jigs, which have been, tens of millions of operations behind them, they remain largely intact. They look a little bit older than when they were first introduced, but they're performing the same service to this day. I'm pretty certain those jigs will find their way into the Siemens Congleton Museum when eventually MM4 products are fully retired. But the MM4 product provided a real step change with respect to manufacturability compared to previous generations, which had relied on multiple PCBs being slotted together into position. With MM4, you had a lean production cell concept. This was created whereby you had single power boards folded up with connections made through interboard jumpers. This significantly increased throughput while ensuring the highest possible quality. I think it's also worth saying that many of our suppliers have also followed us on this journey of MM4. Many of the components at launch are largely unchanged. So while some technologies have evolved in the interim period, it's the role of the product support teams to ensure that those products can still be supported and are available when needed until the product end of life. So it's also just worth mentioning that many of the manufacturing concepts introduced all those years ago for MM4, they've been carried across to subsequent generations of Synamics products. And again, that affirms the innovation and the simplicity of the concept successfully adopted at the Congleton factory and of course, then onwards into the sister factories around the world.
At this point, we ask a guest to share a song or an anecdote that you'd most associate with the launch of MicroMaster. So if you had to think of a song, perhaps, what most resonates with you?
Yeah, that's an interesting question, that. So, thinking about a song which kind of captured and maybe characterized the time when MM4 first came into being, it was the turn of the millennium. And I guess there was a song for me which I thought was ubiquitous, at least on all the radio stations that I might have been listening to at the time, and perhaps on my way home from the office late in the evening. Remember, these were the days before playlists. When you to get music, you'd go to a shop and you'd buy it, probably on a compact disc or something like that. So, and at that time, I think I would hear a song Porcelain from Moby on the radio, and the album Play, I think, would probably be something I would switch off to and chill out to at the end of a busy day. So I'd probably choose that one.
Yeah, it's a great song that, Nick, and I'm really glad that it's you're focusing on that. It's a great song to chill out to, because obviously the first line of that song is "In my dreams, I'm dying all the time," and I'm very much hoping that MicroMaster didn't drive you to such lengths. So that would be really dark for the listeners, indeed.
Yeah,
so,
it was a stressful time, but it was also, as I say, exhilarating was another
absolutely
adjective I'd use for that.
Yeah,
but
I also had that album, and it's one of my favourites too. And I totally agree with you. It's definitely a song which you can put on, sit back and unwind with your favourite drink, perhaps, and reflect on a great day's achievement. So really good choice, that, Nick. It's, as I said, one of my favourites too. So just in closing, so as I walk through the last sort of 10, 15, 20 minutes, we've heard some really great insights of what stand duty looked like 20 years ago, when we were all a bit younger, perhaps, and we wouldn't complain about aching feet until at least day 2 of our stand duty. We've caught a glimpse of Nick's British sense of humour, where we put perhaps 1 or 2 football-related slides into a presentation, and I'll have to be sure, Nick, to make sure that I don't share any of my slides with you in advance of any meetings. We've also heard some great insights about how manufacturing has been impacted by MicroMaster, and how this storyline developed with the life cycle of the drive. So again, Nick, just on behalf of Susanne and myself, thank you for such a really, really great contribution, for sharing your thoughts, your stories in this podcast. And I'm sure it's really great listening for those out there that have taken the time to join us. So let's close it there. Thanks again to Nick. And on behalf of Susanne and myself, thanks to all of you for listening to the podcast, and we'll look forward to seeing you in the next podcast when it comes along.